Hello, everyone. I'm Erwin Swetnam, and welcome to Business 310 Project Management. Today, we're going to dive into Chapter 6, Resource Utilization. Effective resource management is key to keeping projects on track and under budget. In this chapter, we'll be exploring several methods for utilizing resources efficiently, including resource-constrained planning, resource leveling, and resource-limited scheduling. By the end of this lecture, you'll be equipped with the knowledge to apply these techniques to manage resources in real-world projects. These skills help you navigate the inevitable resource constraints that come with any project. Let's get started by going over today's objectives. Chapter objectives. By the end of this chapter, you should be able to 1. Define resources and give examples of different types. 2. Apply resource-constrained planning to manage limited resources. 3. Explain how resource leveling can balance resource demands. 4. Use resource-limited scheduling to extend project timelines when necessary. And 5. Identify and manage resource constraints effectively in a project. Before we move into the details, here are some key terms that will come up frequently in this chapter. Resource allocation. The process of assigning available resources to various tasks, resource-constrained planning. A method for scheduling tasks when resources are limited. Resource leveling. Adjusting the project schedule to ensure that resource demand is spread evenly across the timeline. Resource-limited scheduling. Extending the project's timeline to fit within the limits of the available resources, just in time, JIT delivery, a strategy in which materials are delivered only when they are needed, reducing inventory costs. Section 1, Resource-Constrained Planning. Let's begin with resource-constrained planning. This method is used when resources are limited and activities need to be scheduled based on the availability of those resources. It's common in projects where several tasks compete for the same limited resources, such as personnel or equipment. Key concepts. In resource-constrained planning, activities are delayed until the necessary resources become available. This is especially important when certain activities must be performed in sequence due to technical constraints. For example, when building a house, you must complete the foundation before starting the frame, even though both tasks require the same construction, crew. Figures. Figure 6.1. This figure illustrates a technically constrained activity sequence where each task must follow a specific order. Figure 6.2 shows the resource-constrained planning diagram, detailing how resource availability impacts the scheduling of tasks. In this case, the diagram shows that each task must wait until resources are available, which helps prevent delays caused by resource shortages. This brings us to the first homework question of the lecture. Question number 1, describe how resources can be considered when creating a network diagram. Section 2, Resource Requirements Plan. Next, we'll look at the Resource Requirements Plan. This plan helps project managers estimate the types and quantities of resources required for each activity over the project timeline. A well-constructed plan can prevent bottlenecks and avoid over-allocating resources. Let's consider a consumer market study project. The project manager must allocate resources to team members based on their availability and skill sets. Each team member will be responsible for different tasks at various stages of the project, and by managing this allocation carefully, the manager can ensure that no one is over-allocated, preventing delays. Take a look at Figure 6.3. It's a resource requirements plan for a consumer market study project. Also take a look at Figure 6.4, which are required resources for a painting project showing how resources are allocated across different tasks. Take note of all the resources this project needs. That brings us to our second question in our module question set. Question set 2. Give at least 10 examples of resources used in project management. Examples include people, tools, etc. Section 3, resource leveling. Resource leveling is a technique used to balance the demand for resources across the project timeline. When multiple activities require the same resources simultaneously, resource leveling helps avoid overallocation by adjusting the start and finish dates of tasks. Resource leveling doesn't extend the overall project timeline. Instead, it adjusts the timing of non-critical activities to fit within the constraints of available resources. This prevents overworking any one resource, ensuring a smoother workflow. Figure 6.5. This figure shows a resource requirements plan for a painting project and how painters are allocated across the different tasks. Figure 6.6 demonstrates resource utilization for painters, showing the peaks and valleys of resource demand over the project timeline. This brings us to the third question in our question set. Question number 3, what is meant by resource leveling or smoothing? Why is it used? When is it used? Take a look at page 220 of our text. Resource leveling helps balance resource demand without extending the project completion time, ensuring a steady allocation of resources across the timeline. Section 4, resource limited scheduling. When the number of available resources is fixed, project managers must use resource limited scheduling. This technique extends the project's timeline to fit within the available resources rather than over-allocating them. In resource limited scheduling, tasks are scheduled based on resource availability, even if that means extending the overall project duration. This method is often necessary when resources such as personnel or equipment are in short supply. Figure 6.10. Resource requirements plan for a painting project with limited resources, showing how tasks are rescheduled to fit within the resource constraints. Pause the video here for question number 4 in this week's question set assignment. Question number 4, describe what is meant by resource limited scheduling. Why is it used? When is it used? You will see in the section that resource limited scheduling is used when resource availability is fixed and extending the project timeline is the only way to meet project goals. Please review the subsection on page 222 in more detail. Let's explore a real-world example that demonstrates how resources are utilized in a unique project. In Banff National Park, Canada, the government implemented a fencing and overpass system to reduce collisions between wildlife and vehicles. By guiding animals over safe crossings, engineers were able to reduce animal-vehicle collisions by 80%. This project required careful management of resources, including labor, materials for fences, and land availability for overpasses. By planning resource allocation carefully, the project managers were able to complete the work on time and within budget. Section 6, Project Management Information Systems, or PMIS. Finally, let's look at how project management information systems assist in resource management. PMIS tools are designed to help project managers track resource availability, resolve overallocation, and ensure efficient resource utilization throughout the project. Key concepts: PMIS tools allow project managers to generate reports, visualize resource usage, and automate the scheduling process to avoid resource conflicts. This is particularly helpful in large projects where many resources need to be managed simultaneously. This brings us to the final question of the lecture. Question number 5. Think about a project you are currently working on or have worked on. List all of the resources used in this project. Critical success factors. To wrap up this chapter, here are some critical success factors for effective resource utilization. 1. Resource constraints. Knowing your limits and planning for them is key. 2. Resource-constrained planning. Ensuring that tasks are scheduled based on available resources helps prevent delays. 3. Resource leveling. Smoothing out resource demand ensures that resources are not overburdened. 4. Resource-limited scheduling. Extending timelines when necessary helps avoid overallocation and burnout. Conclusion. That concludes Chapter 6, Resource Utilization. As you move forward, remember that managing resources efficiently is crucial to project success. By mastering resource-constrained planning, resource leveling, and resource-limited scheduling, you'll be better equipped to handle the challenges of project management. Before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to keep up with future content.